like to do it again. 4 days after that, they'd had her read with Doug Waverly, the male star of the show. She'd gone because by then, Kat's father had gotten involved and asked her to read. That day, she said goodbye to Annabelle, due to Annabelle's graduation and her new job in Sacramento. And with their future in question, it was the day they'd offered her the lead role on the show. It was one of those teen dramas on a network filled with teen dramas and involved the world of the supernatural, like 4 of the other dramas on the network. She signed on for the pilot because they were paying her, and she thought that would be the end of it. She didn't exactly have money as a starving college student, and her parents weren't an option, so anything she could make would make her life a little easier. She'd had a part-time job in a cafe since she first moved to LA and survived on her scholarship and the tips she made there more than the actual paycheck. Filming was unlike anything she'd seen, and they spent 8 days shooting the pilot. When it was all said and done, she put the money in the bank and went back to work at the cafe. She figured that would be the end of it and her almost accidental career in Hollywood was over. She actually laughed about the whole thing with Annabelle over the phone one night in July. They'd attempted a long-distance relationship, but Kenzie was already sensing the strain. They had no idea when they'd see each other again, and once Kenzie was told that the pilot had been picked up and they'd start filming the rest of the first season in August, that was it for school and for Annabelle. She thought they could make it work at first, but once the filming took off and she was working 14 hours a day, Annabelle ended it and met someone else shortly after, which Kat had been kind enough to tell Kenzie after she learned it on Facebook. Her whole world shifted then. Once the show aired, it was an instant success, and she was thrust into the spotlight she'd never craved nor sought. Suddenly, she was giving interviews and showing up at events and award shows. Her face was on a billboard a block away from the apartment she still shared with Emily and Kat. Because though she was making money now, she wasn't dumb. She knew this fame thing was fleeting and she'd go back to school and need that money to help her get through. The first season led to the second and so on. 4 seasons later, the show had wrapped for good. They'd all thought they'd had another 2 or maybe 3 seasons in them. The network disagreed. And though the show was performing well in the ratings, Doug Waverly's movie career had taken off and he hadn't renewed his contract. The showrunner left as well to pursue another show on a cable network. That left Kenzie and the supporting cast wondering about the future. The network considered everything and decided not to renew it for the 5th season. Kenzie thought that was the end and she'd go back to finish her degree. She only had 1 year left. And though Emily and Kat had both moved on and they no longer lived together, and she'd be a 25-year-old senior, she still wanted to finish. She looked into getting enrolled again when her agent, Carson, called and told her about another show that wanted her to audition, and that he had 3 movie scripts on his desk for her to read. She considered all her options, and after reading the pilot script and the movie screenplays, she decided to try the TV show and audition for the movie that would film on the show's hiatus. She just wrapped the show's first season, and they'd been renewed for season 2 and 3 already. She had 2 days off after this camp session before she had to report to London, where she'd be filming for 2 months before returning to film in New York for another month. She'd be back to the show a week later, and with her only real vacation time, she'd been talked into attending this adult summer camp for 6 days with a bunch of other famous women. "Hey, there she is!" Peyton Gloss stood about 20 feet in front of her and waved her over to the group. "You're late, Kenzie. We've been waiting for you." "Sorry, I just have to get my stuff," Kenzie replied and turned to walk to the back of her car to get her luggage from her trunk. "Need any help?" Peyton asked. "I can send Danny. She's super strong." Peyton Gloss was the host of this event and also a massive superstar. She was 27 and had 6 albums to her name already. She'd been in the music business since she was 14 and had started in country before moving over into pop. Her last album had been her most successful to date. She'd wrapped a world tour only a month prior and was taking the next several months off to relax. Peyton Gloss was also gorgeous and actually born with the name Peyton Gloss. She had blonde hair that was usually wavy, and she'd only just cut it short to just above shoulder length. She had bright blue eyes and was 5'11" without the heels she normally wore when she was working. She was also bright, funny, and incredibly generous with everyone, but especially with her friends. And Mackenzie Smyth could now count herself among that group. They'd met at a charity event in March. After a few minutes of